Shalom and welcome again to Seekers of Meaning, the podcast TV arm of Jewish Sacred Aging. I'm your host, Rabbi Rabbi Address. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. If you'd like to comment or make suggestions, please feel free to email me at Rabbi Address at jewishsacredaging.com. Check out the website. Check out the Facebook page. We are very, very pleased to welcome Rabbi Josh Feigelson, the president, CEO for the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, an organization that really has helped transform much of the contemporary American Jewish community. And we wanted to explore that because I think it has some direct implications for our generation and the older adult cohort that is now the majority of the American Jewish community. Josh, welcome. It's nice to see you. Thank you very, very much for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
So, Josh, I'm very interested to know the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. Who's your demographic? Who's your audience? Who comes to the Institute and what for?
Historically, we've had a couple of different core audiences that I would talk about. One is clergy, rabbis and cantors, that's been a core demographic, a core constituency that we've worked with for the entirety of our 25 years of existence. We started in the late 1990s. And so to this day, we have over 600 alumni of our core clergy program, which is an 18-month cohort program for retreats that are 5 days each, including meditation and very soulful prayer and Hasidic text study, etc. So that's always been, Jewish, but not only spiritual leadership, but Jewish leadership in general, lay people, teachers, etc., has been a core constituency. And then over the last several years, and especially through COVID, we started directly serving a lot of people, right? And so during the pandemic, we started our daily mindfulness meditation set. We launched a bunch of online courses. We have a weekly online yoga studio. We have podcasts. We have all sorts of things. And overwhelmingly, I will say the core demographic that has developed, I like to describe as synagogue-affiliated Ashkenazi Jewish women over the age of 55 and men who can cry. And
You put that on?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so if you come, to this day, there's still hundreds of people who come in every day at 12:30 Eastern to our daily sit, and they turn on their camera so that they can close their eyes together with people all over the world and be led in a Jewish meditation sit together. Overwhelmingly, those are, older people, partially because of the time of day, partially because people at this stage of life have the time and capacity to be able to engage in spiritual pursuits. And partially it's because developmentally, that's, part of where people are at in their life. They're asking these kinds of questions. So that historically has been, a key demo for us. And I will say in recent years, we've also experienced a lot of growth with young adults, with people in their 20s and 30s, with parents, because mindfulness and meditation and sort of spiritual pursuit has, if 25 years ago, it was sort of tie-dye and Birkenstocks, today it's, in the supermarket checkout line. And so we are serving thousands of young people now as well, in addition to all of those older folks who still and probably always will make up the core of our biggest demographic.
You have a series of communities, which I want to get into. But since you mentioned it, the young adult community, I'll take a stab in the dark of saying the perception, I think, of a lot of people is that, well, those people in their 20s and 30s, they don't want anything to do. They're too busy. They're off doing their own thing, trying to build a career. But what you're alluding to is that there's a significant numbers of people who say, no, I need this. I need this for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Walk me through what that young adult community is like and how somebody could get involved with it.
Certainly people at, in their 20s and 30s, we're generally dealing with people who are out of college, right? They may be in graduate school, but, they're starting their careers or they're in their careers. They're most often before having kids, right? So they may or may not be married or partnered. They might be looking, at that stage of their life. But I think what so many younger folks today are looking for, first of all, the economy right now, if you're coming out of college, is not great. I have a senior in college myself, and a little worried. I'm worried on his behalf of what it's going to look like come May. But I think in general, there is so much stress and anxiety just about life today. I mean, these are kids who have grown up, these are young adults who, by definition have grown up, with either, if they're millennials, with a memory of 9/11, or after 9/11, and they grew up with, the 2008 recession, and then all of the political convulsions and all of the Jewish convulsions that have followed, and global climate change, and all of the various ways that the world seems to be really creating an immense amount of pressure and angst about the future and what is life going to be like. So I think a lot of younger people are looking for spaces where, number one, they can feel supported and acknowledged and embraced, welcomed. Number two, where they can not have to feel that sort of stress about living and anxiety about living, but actually can celebrate living. And number three, Jewishly, I think what's so important is, we hear this from so many younger adults, is wherever they are on the Israel political spectrum, that they feel welcome. And there is an enormous value, I think, in leading communities or offering communities where people don't feel like they have to pass a political litmus test to be in the room. And so I think we hear that resoundingly from folks who come, young adults who are coming on our program. So the way that that's happening is multifold. We have a weekly live online sit that is open to anybody, meditation set that's offered by and for young adults. That happens every Monday night. We have a WhatsApp group that goes with that. That's like a community of people that, are texting and supporting each other, and hundreds of people who are on that list. And, we have dozens who come every Monday night. We also have live communities. We started one in the Bay Area, and these are all under the heading of the brand name of Shevet. That's like that's our brand name for what we're doing with young adults. Shevet as in La Shevet, to sit, but also Shevet like Shevet, which is tribe, and Shabbat, of course, right? So we have a live community that meets weekly for like a potluck and a sit in the East Bay area. And then we've now replicated that in Brooklyn and in Cambridge, Mass. And we're aiming to start more of these communities in local areas. So there's a lot of ways, if folks listening or watching, have a young person in their life, a child or grandchild who, they think this might really speak to, they should totally go on our website, look for Shevet, and they'll find information, and they can text that to the person that they would like to encourage to get involved.
Have you ever thought of dropping down into the teenage years? Only because, given that the huge amount of anxieties and pressures with kids in high school, for a whole variety of reasons, who I think could benefit from, as you would say, a community of non-judgmental appreciation, where I can come and just be without having to worry about what college I'm applying to, the pressures from my parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Has that ever been on the radar? Or is it's just too much?
It's definitely been on the radar. Like I'll say, Richard, that I spend what I feel like is 90% of my time these days figuring out which pitches not to swing at, because there's so many opportunities. And what we've decided is, because, this has been such a pretty rapid growth for us, to be very mindful about how we want to do that development. Our bread and butter has been with older adults, and that's always going to continue to be. We figured, all right, let's work 2 rungs down. We can do parents with children at home, and we can do young adults who are, before families. But once we start getting down into school age kids, there's a whole other world of considerations, that goes in there, and we weren't ready to do that. But eventually, we will get there, I'm sure. Yeah.
You alluded to just the craziness in the world. The use of the word trauma is not hyperbolic, I think, in today's world. You use mindfulness meditation as an antidote to the societal trauma within a Jewish context. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You also have a variety of other sub-communities, if I can use that, or communities in addition to that I think people need to know about. From what I've seen, Jews of color, disabilities, LGBTQ. Talk to me a little bit about that. Why they're separate communities, I would imagine, because specific issues that may not relate to others. And is it the same electronic, et cetera, et cetera?
It's a fascinating question and an important question in the society in general today, right? That I think we're dealing with is what's the place of, particularism and universalism, right? We could put it that way. When do we try to serve everybody, right? And everybody is included. And when do people need particular spaces? And I think as Jews, we also, we know from that. I grew up in the Boy Scouts. And I remember, so many times when there would be like a quote unquote ecumenical prayer offered that, that ended in your name we pray, in Jesus' name we pray or whatever. And because ecumenical to them meant like non-denominational Protestant or something, right? That's not actually like inclusive for some. So I think we understand that on one level, there's a role for a large community, general community sort of set or general community opportunities. And then there are also needs that folks from particular communities might have where they would really benefit from an affinity group, an affinity space. So that started initially with I think we started a Jews of Color state like 3 or 4 years ago. And that has been really wonderfully supportive for, a group of people who may also come to our, general offerings, but who have found a home in a particular place to share a particular experience. Also with our LGBTQ group. And then most recently, this past summer, we started this group for Jews with disabilities. And that's obviously a very large, expansive definition. A lot of people can fit into that. They can be physical disabilities. They can be mental illness that people are struggling with. And so it's been really supportive, and we've heard really, really wonderful response from people who are participating. And so those are all free and available, through electronic means there that you can sign up. They're on Zoom live. Our general daily sit is available also in, recorded afterwards. You can, watch on YouTube, et cetera. Like anytime you can go on our YouTube channel, and we have at this point, thousands of past sits that are there that, if you're looking for something at 2 a.m, it's there for you.
We're speaking with Rabbi Josh Feigelson, the president and CEO of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. If I want to get a hold of you, want to contact the Institute, what's the website? How do I do that?
Yeah, the website is Jewish Spirituality, all one word, .org. You can check us out, and I think we have a pretty awesome website. And so you can, contact us there, but you can also see all the things that we're running, all the courses that we have, all the free events that we have, the retreats that we run, the cohort programs that we run, the podcasts that we have, a million different ways to get involved.
One of the more famous, if that's the right word, because I have colleagues of mine who have gone through this, is the spiritual director program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you talk to me about what that does? Because there's a variety of them around, and what's so special about the Institute's spiritual director program, and how long is it, and et cetera, et cetera.
Spiritual direction may be a new term, and spiritual direction is really what's called a form of spiritual companionship. It may feel or look a little like a therapist relationship, like a one-on-one relationship where you have an ongoing relationship with someone who's a spiritual director and who really is there to help you as the client to understand and discern, like, where is the presence of the divine, of God in my life right now? And how is that showing up? And it can feel a little weird, I think, to a lot of Jews at first, because, we're so culturally not as comfortable with God language in general as maybe some of our Christian or non, or just non-Jewish counterparts. And so it actually comes out of, its origins are in the Catholic tradition in particular. But more and more, Jews have gotten involved in this, recognizing the value of being able to have these kinds of conversations. And a lot of clergy and other people have become trained as spiritual directors. And when people have wanted to become spiritual directors, they've had to go through ultimately a spiritual direction, a form of training that has its roots in Christian tradition, even if it's been become more embracing and ecumenical. And Rabbi Miriam Klotz, who was on our faculty for many years, came up with the idea a few years ago of we could really offer a Jewish spiritual director training program, which we called Kol Dodi, and we ran the first cohort of that a couple of years ago. It started actually just after October 7th is when we had our the first retreat for that, and is an 18-month program. I think we graduated 28 people. Some of them are clergy. Some of them are physicians or lawyers or other people who have decided this is part of their spiritual path and they want to be able to offer these skills and this service to people. And I've been really amazed actually at a lot of the people, the folks who've gone through it. It has such a deep effect on them, really training in deep listening in particular. And so there's a really transformative effect for the individual in becoming a spiritual director. So that's an 18-month program that actually our next cycle of it is going to be starting up. We're going to start recruitment for it in January of 2025. So this is a good time, or 2026, I should say.
26, right.
January 2026. So it's a good time to be thinking about that, and the information for that you can find on our website. Again, the name of the program is Kol Dodi, Jewish Spiritual Director Training.
What you keep mentioning retreats. Is a retreat part of every program, or is it specific to certain programs?
It's certain programs, not all programs. I mean, first of all, we have online courses. We have about 20 of them, I think, this year. Those are strictly online. They don't involve a retreat. Some programs, Kol Dodi actually has an in-person retreat at the beginning, and then we had a virtual retreat at the end, right? So you might take a couple of days where you're at home and a lot of it is happening through Zoom, but you're not getting on a plane to go someplace. But we're running this year, I think we're running a total of 8 retreats. And most of those are in cohort programs. A couple of them are open retreats, one for young adults, one for the general public.
Josh, as you know, the term spirituality is defined in a whole variety of different ways. And you alluded to before some of the challenges that the entire community is dealing with vis-a-vis Israel. I'm sure that how we're handling, how the community, how people are beginning to try and deal with this tragedy in Israel and Gaza and the war and all the spin-offs and everything. How is this finding a home in the Institute, or is it?
Such a good question. As I alluded to before, there's always this question about how much do we focus in and name a particular issue, right? A particular community, any particular item, right? The prat and the klal is what we would refer to it as, in halakha, like the specific and the general heading that it comes under. And I think we found that with everything that has been happening in the last 2 years. How much do we specifically name whatever is happening in Israel and Gaza and the West Bank? How much do we say, there's also a lot of other terrible things that are happening in the world, including in our own country, right? That people are really struggling with. So there's always a bit of a dance, I think. But certainly, I mean, at the end of the day, what we're here to do is to help anybody who is in whatever the place they're at to be able to meet and respond to whatever challenges and whatever life and whatever opportunities are present, right? In a more mindful, soulful, skillful way. And so on one level, I think it's the word that I've been finding myself using a lot is metabolize. We're here to help people metabolize their experience, right? And cause less indigestion. Right. And so for a lot of us, that involves whatever, wherever we're at in the moment on Israel and the hostages in Gaza, et cetera. And for some of us, it might involve domestic politics. And for some of us, it might involve illness that a family member is, or we, God forbid, are struggling with. Or it might involve, parenting adult children or worrying about, whatever it is. All of that can be aided and softened through the Jewish mindfulness practice that we teach. So I would say it's yes and.
In the Jewish mindfulness practices that you teach, with a multitude of different types of people who come to the Institute, where's God?
Where is God? Where is God in how we experientially or theologically? That's
You pick.
Okay. I'll say. So our roots, yeah. Well, I'll say is that our we draw deeply on the Hasidic tradition. And I think we do that for a couple of reasons. I like to point out to people that the Baal Shem Tov was born in 1698. Benjamin Franklin was born in 1706.
Right.
I believe.
Yes.
You're in Philadelphia. You would know that. which means Benjamin Franklin and the Baal Shem Tov lived at the same time. That's the point, right? They're walking the earth at the same time. And I think in many ways they're responding to similar questions, even though they're in different, hemispheres, right? And fundamentally, you could boil down the question they're responding to as, if power doesn't only exist and reside in a king or an emperor or some sovereign who has all the power and is far away and remote, but in fact, all of us are the sovereign. All of us have a piece of the power with us, right? All of us have agency. So in the case of Franklin, what does that do politically, right? It leads you to democracy. In the case of the Baal Shem Tov, what does that do theologically? Well, it means that all of us have a piece of the divine within us, or in fact, the divine resides here among us, right? And is not something far away, is not an unmoved mover, is not an old man with a beard throwing thunderbolts sitting on a cloud. So we draw on the Hasidic tradition that the Baal Shem Tov started, because where is God? Where is the divine? It's in here, right? It's within us if we can attune ourselves to hear it. Everything we do, every mitzvah, which no longer, by the way, has to only mean commandments, right? The Hasidic tradition, drawing on the Zohar, talks about mitzvah lashon tzavta lashon chibur. So in Aramaic, mitzvah is tzavta, and tzavta it connotes connection, not just commandment, right? So it's not only mitzvah means commandment, it's a good book by that name, but that mitzvah means connection. So everything that we do and every mitzvah that we do becomes an opportunity for manifesting and realizing the divine presence that's already here, within us, between us, in the world. So where is God? I mean, God's in this conversation right now. That's what I would say.
So if I'm coming to the Institute for Jewish Spirituality and I'm unsure of my own theological beliefs, will I be given the permission to search, to seek, to use that word, to find my own position, my own place, my own home, my own comfort level, and to define that word as it means something where I am now in my life?
Absolutely. 100%. Right. We are non-dogmatic, and borrowing from the Buddhists, who will always say, don't take my word for it. Check it out for yourself, right? Check it out in your own experience. That is that we are dogmatic about, I would say, right? Is that you do need to check this out in your own experience. And if it works for you, do the things that work for you, do the things that support you, do the things that allow you to be more loving, more compassionate. And the things that are making your heart harder or making, leading to more abrasiveness, probably don't want to cultivate those things, And so every one of us has to check that out and sort of, answer that for ourselves. And hopefully, ours can be a community where people can feel supported in doing that.
No, my understanding of the Institute and people who've gone through the programming is it is a way to help people through their own personal journeys, their own spiritual, personal, theological, human journey, and embrace them and hold them for the context of Jewish tradition and text.
Yeah.
And then I will interpret that text and tradition, as you say, in my own experience.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, before we run out of time real fast, I want to get a hold of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. How do I do that? I go to
Jewish Spirituality, all one word, Jewish Spirituality.org, O-R-G. That's how you can find us.
Rabbi Josh Feigelson, the president and CEO of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. Josh, thank you very, very much for giving us the Institute Primer 101 introduction to. First of all, thank you again. Stay safe, stay well, stay healthy, and continued success. Have a great year.
Thank you so much.
I thank you very, very much. To all of you who've joined us today, thank you very much for your time. We are deeply appreciative of you giving us your time. If you'd like to support some of the work we do, go to the website, jewishsacredaging.com. There's a very conveniently located donate thingy. just press it and follow the directions. It's real easy. We are very grateful. If you or your organization would like to sponsor a series of these podcasts, again, just email me at jewishsacredaging.com, Rabbi Address at jewishsacredaging.com. We'll take it from there. Seekers of Meaning is produced at the broadcast centers of the Lubetkin Media Companies in beautiful Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And a big shout out to our genius producer, Steve Lubetkin. Again, thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Rabbi Richard Address. Until we see you again on the next Seekers of Meaning, take care of yourself, be safe, be healthy, and most of all, especially in this day and age, be kind to one another. Shalom and Todah.